Welcome to the Nerd Journey Podcast. Our goal is to help you, the technology professional, accelerate your career progression, increase your job satisfaction, and be more effective in your existing role.
We want to bring listeners like you the career advice we wish we'd been given earlier in our careers.
I'm John White, at VJourneyman on Twitter, sharing co-host duties with Nick Cordy, at NetworkNerd_.
We're two former IT operations guys who have moved on to pre-sales roles with technology vendors. We have our opinions, but we also like to highlight the journeys of others and see what we can learn from them.
We'd also like to ask for your feedback to make this a conversation, not a one-way broadcast. Email us at nerdjourneypodcast@gmail.com or DM us at nerdjourney on Twitter. So come join us on our nerd journey.
Let's take a trip.
Episode 321. What's one question you would like to ask a potential manager before taking a new job? And how many times have you done that during the interview process? Kellyn Gorman would tell you, make sure you ask all the questions you need to ask to determine if the manager you're going to work for is the right fit for you. Kellyn is a multi-platform database professional with 25 years of experience in our industry, and she's also known as DBA Kevlar. If you missed part one of our discussion with Kellyn in episode 320, we talked about a health challenge that resulted in 9 years of memory loss, but that eventually led Kellyn into technology and database administration as a profession. Kellyn shared some of the strengths and weaknesses of neurodiversity, specifically having autism and ADHD, or what we might call ADHD. And then we got to hear some really great advice from Kellyn about accepting quality of our work that's good enough and how we can tune our work for time constraints. Both of these can help us guard against perfectionist tendencies. In part 2 of our discussion with Kellyn this week, we'll talk about the importance of finding a good boss and some of the ways Kellyn has made that determination in the past. You'll hear about the importance of having public proof of work and Kellyn's thoughts on some of the barriers people have to even getting started. Are you in that boat? You'll also hear the story of Kellyn participating in two very different technical communities. I want you to pay really close attention to the contrast between the two as you listen through this episode. Let's get you to part 2 of our discussion with Kellyn Gorman. There's something really interesting that mirrors what you said earlier, because you were talking about not enjoying spending time on things that aren't valuable. And you just mentioned that you've developed this way of finding those resources that are valuable and even creating those resources that are valuable. And I actually think there's a third layer that we can go to next, because in our previous discussion, you kind of mentioned that you've figured out how to figure out if a certain manager or boss will be valuable to the way that you like to work and prioritize your time. So can you speak to the way you sort of qualify in or qualify out the managers that you work for when you take a job interview?
Are we talking about me interviewing my bosses?
Yes.
Yeah.
If somebody's listening, how can they ask the right questions of a potential new boss to figure out how to best work with that person and train them a little bit on how you like to work and what you need from them?
I think a lot of times for folks as you're interviewing, the aspect of just getting that job is your main goal. You're trying to get employed. Absolutely understand that everybody needs to work, to bring in a paycheck. You're feeling that pressure. But if it's not the right job, it can be a horrible situation. And it is just devastating for me because, again, I'm ADHD. Having a good boss is essential for me to be successful. So when I'm coming into an interview, most people that interview me already have read my blogs, my books, my content. They've seen me speak. They know me. It's very normal for them to go, I don't have to give you a technical interview. I already know what you know. Okay, well, then I get to ask questions. And at that point, I'm asking them if they have an assignment to assign. How are they assigning it? What are the requirements they're going to be setting forth? Are they more of a micromanager? I need to know, do you need regular, updates on this? Are you going to just be happy? Here, there's the finish line. Go finish it. That's extremely important. Go ahead and run the race. I don't need to know how. That's important to me. I am a professional. I am going to do the best job and really take care of that company and be extremely loyal. I need them to trust me to do that. When I was at Microsoft, my mentor, Buck Woody, had me fill out a Clifton assessment from Gartner, and that has been incredibly valuable. I literally take that, and I have updated it. I do tell people over a period of time, as you mature, your Clifton assessment can change and the output of it. But the assessment pretty much says what you are like as an employee. What are your skill set? What are your potential? What are your weaknesses? But it's focused on you as an employee. And I hand that to my upcoming boss and say, here, I come with an employee manual. I give it to them and they can read through that. The ones that read through that, I know I've got a good chance of having a good boss. If they just throw it aside, they don't even take the time to read it, may have problems. They're not even curious enough about me to read that assessment. And it's not a long one. The top level assessment's like 5 pages. And it tells you, I'm a strategic thinker, that I am a go-getter, that I do not need a lot of management, that you tell me what you need and I will figure out. I will tell you things you didn't know you needed. I'm going to figure that all out for you. That's really crucial to say, I am providing you all of this inside information about an employee and you not taking the time to find that out. I don't know what to say on that. And I have seen it where people are like, oh, thanks. I might have time. I'll look through it at some point. But for me, the managers that I'm looking for, I am looking for a manager that's extremely flexible, that is saying, you're a professional, you're going to go do your job. You know what you know. I'm not even going to pretend to know, or I probably know less about Oracle than you've forgotten over the years. I'm looking for those people who understand that. I'm looking for people who understand that I have unique challenges going into tech, that I am in an older technology space, but I'm also across a broad set of communities because, I have friends in the Microsoft community that will be interviewing folks and they'll be like, do you know a DBA named Kellyn? She's like, I know, we look alike, these kind of situations. I am strangely known in all these different technical communities because there aren't a lot of women in Oracle. There aren't. And I am mouthy, so people talk to me a lot. I'm used to this. But that a manager can understand the capabilities, that I do have vision, that I have what's called, I call it at least, a Lego brain. If you want to know how your technology fits into every other technology, I can tell you. You want to build out a solution and market it to any different provider, no matter if it's Google or Microsoft, I can architect it for you. There have been really great companies lately that have incorporated that into their solutions. That's all I do for one company right now is I built them solutions. I architect them and they take them and market them. It's awesome. But I needed a boss that understood that. That was like, I need Kellyn's Lego brain for this. And then he brings it in. And he doesn't feel he needs to control it. He doesn't feel that he needs to stifle it. That's what I provide to the company.
When you're talking about the things you interview a manager for or check for through the interview process, are there things about yourself and how you like to work that are more important that you prioritize first in the first few conversations and things you might save for after you get hired? Or should we seek to get as much as possible up front in that interview process?
I get a lot out up front and I interview for a long time. The position that I have now, I talked to my manager for 4 months before they hired me. With Silk, I talked to them for about 3 months, and I'd known them for 3.5 years before that.
Oh, okay.
Microsoft was over 4 months. I mean, I talked to a company for a long time. I'm also talking to individuals inside the company. I find folks inside the company that can really find out the internal information that I need to know. When I was going to Oracle, I could not have made the good decisions that I did without somebody else. I want to grow up and become Mary Melgard, that she was able to come in and go, nope, those 2 offers you have, you take this one. You tell them you should be in level I5, max out your vacation. I mean, she went through the entire offer, told me exactly what I should get. I came into that team and I'd known Pete Sharman forever. And he's like, how did Kellyn come in 2 levels above me? How did this happen? It was Mary Melgard. Absolutely, Mary Melgard. Having those kind of contacts are extremely important. When I went to Microsoft, Bruno Borges had come into the Java team from Oracle, and I contacted him and used him very much the same way. When I was going to Silk, I had known Tom O'Neill and Chris Buckle for 3.5 years and worked with them through Microsoft. When I came to Redgate, Louise Donaldson, she and I had known each other since 2011. I mean, long time. Those contacts are extremely important. Of the 3 advocates, 2 of them I've known, Steve Jones, 2011, and 2013 for Grant. I want to feel secure. I need that secure feeling that I'm making strong choices and understanding. For my bosses, Kirsty Roper and I talked for 4 months, and me telling her, this is important to me, and then us negotiating, and I know we haven't really brought it up, about negotiating, having other opportunities outside of just my work, which is a careful dance that you're doing. So those kind of discussions too helps you understand, what is this person going to be like as a manager if they're able to have these conversations with you.
I think it struck me that what you were talking about encompassed a couple different things, right? One is making sure that you have proof of work out in the wild that people can look at and come across and maybe even discover you by. And the professional network that you're building becomes like a potential employment network. I felt like you hit that hard.
I want to jump on that one. Every mentee that I have and people that I advise, I tell them, you should blog, you should write, you should talk. Absolutely. Speak, do this. I am out there. People already know what I know, and it's a way for people to comprehend and to get a jump in. I have not had to go look for a job in over a decade. We're talking a good 15 years. People have come to find me and said, we want you. The job that I have at Redgate now, they had come to me first and said, we hear you have 10 extra hours a week. We want those 10 hours. I said, sure, I'll come in as an engineer, 10 hours a week. What they didn't know is that the advocacy team had decided I was the one they wanted for an advocate. And they went to Louise Donaldson and said, hey, can you foster an introduction to Kellyn? They said, she's already working for us as an engineer 10 hours a week, right? And I said, no, we want her for our Oracle advocate position. And so they just came to me and said, we're not asking you to interview for this job. We're offering you this job. If you want to talk, let's talk. When I went to the previous position, Silk, I went to them as well as 2 other companies and said, I'm ready to leave Microsoft. I've been there 5 years. I know where this is going. The Exadators are coming in. That takes away all that interesting shiny stuff, as we were just talking about. We ADHDers like that shiny stuff. And I said, I'm ready to go. I'm giving you all the opportunity. Write me a role. Tell me what we got. How can you put me to use? Silk wrote me a role. They built me a role. They won. They won that task. Delphix, same thing. Kyle Haley said, I'm going to AWS, Kellyn. I want you to come apply for my role. I want you to come take my role. It's really important to be out there, be present. Just be the best that you can be and show what you can do, that people will come find you and they will offer you jobs.
So we have this idea, I think, that we've talked about on the podcast. It's based on the book, Show Your Work, learning in public, and even being a beginner in blogging and documenting how you as a beginner or an intermediate person or whatever level you're at are learning something, and the steps forward as well as the setbacks is very approachable.
Yes.
And other people who are wanting to learn that or wanting to understand how you work will, view that as fairly valuable insight, and you become way more approachable too. So I really like that idea. But yeah, maybe if you could speak about that, being at the top of the game versus being entry level or, early career, how this helps you.
I've been blogging on DBA Kevlar since 2008, and you will even see posts where, we should go backwards on this, where I posted about, I am in Oracle 11G and somebody put in the stupid parameter, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then the following blog post is, here is the earlier blog post from 10G where I put in that stupid parameter. It was me, that I had worked at the company. I had left the company, went to Pythian, came back to the company and hadn't realized I was the one who did it and upgraded the databases to 11G, and it come back to bite me. So I write about that. I write about, this is my stupid DBA trick for this year, and I joke about that. Everybody has a stupid DBA trick that you did, but that was mine. I do publish those. We're saying we are human. We do things that are stupid. And I think that's really important to show that you make mistakes too. Again, like I stated earlier, my 16-year-old thought I was perfect. And I'm like, I'm your mom. I really screw up a lot. You haven't seen it? How does anyone else who doesn't live in this household not see it? So I think that's extremely crucial to talk about that, because otherwise you think, I used to call them the DBA gods. I'd see these posts from all these people of all these incredible things they were doing. And I was like, they never screw up. I think it's important to show when you do screw up and how you recover. One of the things that, my husband was my first mentor. He worked with me when I was a junior DBA, 8 years before he ever had the opportunity to find out that I was divorced and he was going to marry me. But I remembered that he told me one time when he was mentoring me how he had dropped, it was this monstrous index on a partition table. And that his boss, and I'm friends with this gentleman too to this day, stated, okay, so he dropped the index. Guess we notify everyone and we start rebuilding. And that was it. It happened. Let's take care of it. And when you hear that from somebody as prolific as my husband was, in my view at that time, you start to understand it's important to share those mistakes. It's important to talk about your journey. And if you go to DBA Kevlar, you can see it goes way, way back of showing from me, from just a DBA, a multi-platform DBA, learning the hard way, writing about things. And I was documenting for myself, but I thought, other people might find this interesting too. So I started putting it out there on blogs. And then from there, continuing to grow and continuing to do more and presenting it as, this is my path in tech. This is what I'm doing. If you find it interesting, go ahead and read it. If you don't, I'm all right with that too. It's all right. I may need this next week when I forget what I did in 10G. So we're good.
It's an interesting thing that you're also demonstrating, right? Is that not only do I do good work, but I also document the outcome and I document the process. And part of my personality is that I want to help other people improve. It's not just personal growth, it's like team growth. It's community growth.
Yes.
That's a super powerful message.
And I love that. That's something that I adore about the Microsoft community because they've always been so good at that. I ended up blogging a lot more on the tech community for Microsoft than I did on DBA Kevlar for, recent years. You'll see my blog kind of went as I started blogging out there. I've been writing a lot of articles in that. And I noticed that, before when I was blogging once a week for years and years and years, and then once I went to Microsoft, all of a sudden it just kind of saddened off. But when I left Microsoft, I made sure that I took all that content and added it to DBA Kevlar. No matter what, it would be retained. It would stay. And folks were like, I didn't even realize you were writing over there. I was like, that's what happened. That's why I was so busy. Important to keep a hold of everything that you've created, that people know that it's there.
When you talk to people that you're mentoring, Kellyn, and advise them to start blogging, speaking, what do you feel like is the biggest hurdle they have to cross to start writing or start speaking because they've not done it as much as you have, perhaps?
That's such an easy answer. They think they don't have anything important to say. And I will remind them that some of my most popular blogs are things that I thought was stupid. Nobody's going to read this. Nobody's going to think it's good. And those are the most popular blogs. I documented using a Windows Oracle Enterprise Manager and monitoring HPUX targets. I thought, nobody's going to read this. This is only there for me because I'm going to have to support this customer long term. And that thing gets hit constantly every single day. That I created a Raspberry Pi image so that you had a simulated VM image. People hit that thing constantly. It would be hit thousands of times a day. And I'm like, I just built it on a VM. If I wanted to use it for my STEM classes, people loved it with all the Python stuff. They adored it and were downloading it everywhere for STEM education. I had written that for Oracle, their Oracle Tech classes. It was just hilarious. It's not the things you think will be popular. It's not the things that everybody else is doing. It's the stuff that nobody else knows. So just start writing and see what happens. Don't overthink it.
I really like that.
Yeah, I love the idea that we don't know the purpose that other people are going to use our problem solving for, right? So you document solving a problem, you put it out there, it's going to help people, and your preconceptions for how this will help people have nothing to do with what the output is, right?
Yeah.
You put the good work out there and people will find it and apply it in ways that you just don't know. You can't imagine. The universe is too big to imagine it all.
And as you get older, you realize that the other folks that may have been in your community may retire, may take their blogs down. I have some of the only Oracle Enterprise Manager deep content, from the command line interface and that. I can't ever take that down because if I do, it's gone. It's gone forever. People like Pete Sharman's gone. Andrew Bullock's not writing this stuff anymore. Kellyn, your blog is the only place. It saved me at 3 a.m. in the morning. It's like, I won't touch it. Don't worry. It's staying. It's staying.
You do speaking now. You've done a lot of writing. You've also been part of technical communities. So I want to know which one, what was the order of those and what drove the other parts? Like, did you start writing and then find the Oracle community? Was it the other way around? I'm really curious.
I had been attending RMUG training days, and RMUG is Rocky Mountain Oracle User Group. It was the largest regional user group conference in the U.S., happened to be in Denver, where I lived. And I was attending there, and I wanted to start speaking. And the reason that I wanted to start public speaking is I found that my ADHD made it very difficult for me when I was in a public space. People would ask me questions, and I absolutely had the answers, but I would lose access to my brain, and I wouldn't be able to come up with it at that moment. I would say, could you come back and we'll talk one-on-one later? I'll get you your answer. Because I was hiding that I was having so much trouble coming up with an answer like that. Even if I knew the information, it wasn't accessible for me. So I started speaking, and I remember my first talk when I went to RMUG. I went and did the talk, and I was going to do it on temporary table spaces with parallel processing. And kid you not, the door closed and my talk went out the door with it, just was gone. I spoke for 35 minutes trying to go through my slides. And one of my other mentors, James Koopman, came up and went afterwards. He was like, that was interesting, Kellyn. And I'm like, would you like to stay now? The talk's back in my head. I don't know where it was the last 35 minutes. I had an hour. It was horrible. It was the worst talk ever. But it got better. Again, didn't give up. Be persistent, continue to talk, and now I can talk on anything. I've got it down. I'm doing pretty much nothing but keynotes this year. I mean, it's
That's
all
awesome.
keynotes. The Oracle Data and Analytics Conference, K-Scope, Scenic City Summit, SQL Saturday, Oregon. I mean, that's all I pretty much do. And I love it. I love doing keynotes. A lot of it's on, why I can't do the dishes already, just whatever I'm having fun, whatever really intrigues me and interests me. And I know that people are feeling themselves, what resonates with them. And I love doing these talks, but it took a long path. I mean, we're talking from 2011 to now. So we're talking 14 years it took me to get to that. As the user community, because I was already first attending and then speaking, I was getting divorced. And I came to RMUG, a couple of the board members. One of them is the gentleman who is now my husband, Tim Gorman. And I said to him, I have time I'd like to give back to the organization. They've given me so much. And they said, you should run for the board. I said, I wanted to volunteer. I didn't mean go on the board. And they're like, oh yeah, you should go on the board. And I did. I ended up going on the board. So I ended up being on the board. And then I started running RMUG training days, that big conference. And it was huge back then. There were 1,000 people going to it at that point. And I went to it last week. There were 80. It's heartbreaking to see where the Oracle community is now because of so much content that is out there. It's hard to get people to go in person to events like this. There's cloud events, there's everything. It's very challenging. But I started managing that. And so I was in the Oracle community and more people were asking me to speak. And I came pretty much out of nowhere. So by 2011, I was made an ACE, which is a community recognized award. A year later, I was an ACE director, which is a top award within Oracle. I won Women of Tech of the Year for the state of Colorado in 2014. I mean, I was moving up fast, really quick. I was doing keynotes. 2014, I did it for everything from Croatia, Slovenia, you named it. We were going all over and doing these keynotes together, Tim and I. At that point, we were a couple. We came out at Oracle Open World. There were people taking pictures of us holding hands and going, Tim Gorman and, DBA Kevlar are dating. He had seen my name, go back to my maiden name, and he contacted me and said, are you doing all right? I'm getting divorced too. It sucks, And we ended up being each other's kind of confidants for a long time, and then found out that we actually belong together and have come up with a very good partnership now for 14 years. This is how this kind of changed. And I was in the community for a very, very long time, through about 2018, 2019 in the Oracle community. But 2012, I went to my first SQL Saturday, which is the Microsoft side. And remember, I was already involved in the Oracle side in Denver. I was on the board. I walked into the SQL Saturday. It's a free event for SQL Server professionals. And I walked in and went, where'd you get them all? And they're like, what do you mean? Where'd you get all the women? There's 40% women here. I got 7%. Why do you have 40%? And Jen and Sean McCowan, who I'm friends with to this day, they happened to be speaking there, and they explained to me the DEI and Women in Tech initiative that was in Microsoft. And it made total sense to me. It was what I was trying to bring over to the Oracle side. They just weren't ready. They just weren't ready on the Oracle side. And I was just utterly amazed. And I started going to SQL Saturdays because I was also Microsoft. I'd always been, we talked about SQL Server. I mean, I was doing SQL Server too. And I started attending SQL Saturdays around and speaking at those as well. And 2016, I went to my first PASS Summit, and PASS is their platform of SQL Server Association and the big summit. And I remember I walked in and this one girl came up to me and she said, I love your shoes. And I looked at her and her name was Angela Tidwell, and we became best friends immediately. We were both wearing Fluvogs, and the Microsoft guys were awesome. That's when I met, like Grant and all these guys. And I just loved the energy. I loved the inclusivity, the everything that they were doing. I just was so impressed. And I'm like, this is the way user communities are supposed to be. It's all about you do you, and I'm all right with what you do. It was just incredible. So that was pretty much my love affair, starting with the Microsoft community. And I'm going, I'm a weird Oracle girl. Will you take me? Will you adopt me? And they did. So there you go.
I'm afraid we'll have to cut part 2 right there this week, because we do have a part 3 coming to conclude the trilogy next week. I want to say a special thank you to Mr. David Klee, a former guest who recommended that we speak to Kellyn so she could share her story on the show. I hope you're enjoying it so far. If you are enjoying it, could you take the time to rate our show 5 stars and write what you loved about this discussion with Kellyn as a review on Apple Podcasts? We'd sure appreciate it. The Clifton assessment was not something I had heard of before speaking to Kellyn. I think that's a great idea for people like us to do, and maybe it could help you find some of those strengths you didn't know you had, perhaps some strengths that even people you work closely with or who know you well didn't think to point out to you, and it can help you build up that narrative to share in job interviews to highlight the things you've done based on the strengths you have. And I love the idea of giving it to a manager to see if they read it. When Kellyn looks for a new job, she likes to have several rounds of interviews over a decent amount of time, but she also seeks out other people within the company she's targeting to give her guidance. In other words, she likes to find the harbor pilot, just like John and I talked about in episode 317, where the captain of a cruise ship needs a harbor pilot to be able to dock in a specific port. Kellyn's modeling that for us in the way she does her interview processes. I also really liked Kellyn's approach to blogging, the attitude she had about documenting the learning journey, not only things that she succeeded in, but mistakes that she made. Because we need to show people that we're human. We need to show them that despite successes we might have had, we definitely make mistakes. But for her, I think she's taking the same attitude as Duncan Epping told us about in episode 304. At least I got to learn something. Toward the end of that episode, we talked about the differences in the Oracle user group and the Microsoft user group. So Kellyn became part of both of those communities. And I want you to hear me say this. It's okay to be part of multiple communities. If you find a technical community that you really love and enjoy and participate in, it doesn't mean you can't participate in other technical communities. So it doesn't have to be just one. I understand we only have so much time in a day, so much time in a week. That may be all you have time for. But if you're a technologist who works with multiple sets of technologies, that sets you up to go and seek out multiple technical communities to meet other people, learn about what they're doing, and see what you can learn from them. Kellyn has definitely been a steward of the community. And I think as we get into part 3 next week, you'll find she's been a steward of multiple communities. It'll be the difference between those two communities and what that ignited in Kellyn that we start our discussion with next week in part 3. I look forward to talking to you then.
Farewell, listeners. Tune in next time as the journey continues. I'm John White at BJourneyman, for Nick Cordy at NetworkNerd_, signing off.
Adios.